Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TTV Modcast Episode 7. I'm Indy.
I'm Chronicler.
Slime.
I'm Lego Master.
And Wodge is dead. Rip.
Wodge is here in spirit. He is observing the call as we speak. But since he has little to no experience with our topic of today, he will not be participating.
And what is that topic, my good friend?
I don't know. Perhaps it is the Captain America of Civil Wars?
I think you might be right. So, how did you guys like the movie where the superheroes punched each other in the face? Was it good?
Repeatedly. Many
times.
There's a lot of punching.
A lot of punching.
There was an absurd amount of punching. Now that
there was. You're right. A lot of. I'm just going to get into it. I'm already complaining. I love the movie when I'm complaining, but there's a lot of shaky camera. Did anyone else notice that?
Not really.
I just remember a lot of scenes where I was like, where am I? And just like a bit of shaking on the camera. I was like, whoa.
Well, the movie moves around a lot when you say, like, you kind of ask yourself, where am I? I feel like the movie definitely, especially in the first act or so, it goes all over the place. So, like, you kind of have trouble following. And I guess spoiler warning for this entire podcast, but, like, for the longest time, I thought that Zemo was Bucky.
Yeah.
I thought that, like, the person that we saw who it turned out to be Zemo was, like, Bucky with a haircut.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I didn't have...
I can totally understand that.
I can understand that too. They even showed in the movie that he used like some sort of mask thing that looked like Bucky. So,
but like all of the stuff that Zemo was doing, because I feel like at the beginning it's not super clear, and then like even when you have Zemo, like say interrogating that one guy by putting him upside down in a sink, which is kind of brutal. And
wait, before we get into that, we should probably talk about like our level of fandom involvement and like where we're. I guess I'll start. So, I was a wee lad when when Iron Man came out, or Hulk. Was it Hulk? Was Hulk the first one?
No, Iron Man.
Iron Man was
debatable.
I ignore Hulk. But like so I think I've seen every Marvel movie. I've never been the hugest fan. Like I don't watch the TV shows or anything. I've always been a big fan of the movies though. So yeah, I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to being a huge fan or not. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I've seen all the movies except for Ant-Man and Thor 2.
Well, I haven't watched Thor 2 either, but I've watched the rest of the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, and I haven't really seen much of the TV shows either. And I'm not a huge comics guy, so
same.
The movies is pretty much my only exposure to it. But overall, like, I'm pretty well versed in stuff as far as the Marvel Universe goes.
Yeah, like, have you read the Civil War comic itself? Like, I know I have. It's like the only one I've ever read, but like, I don't know if anyone else has.
I have not.
I'm familiar with the storyline, but not I haven't actually read it. So
okay.
So Chronicler, you're also kind of in the same boat.
I'm probably a little bit more of a Marvel expert than Indy, but since I've been a Marvel fan for most of my life, but I've watched most of the movies. I'm more integrated into the MCU, so
for me, it's really the same as Indy and Slime, I guess. Like, I guess I started with Iron Man 1 as well. And for me, like, a lot of my exposure to Marvel comes from the online Lego community, actually. Like, I know several people online who are, like, big Marvel fans and who, like, they talk about it a lot. And so a lot of my knowledge of Marvel is kind of secondhand. I, like, from YouTube comments and stuff like that, I hear people talking about this stuff. So I kind of, like, know what's going on. And I'm a huge fan of the movies themselves, but I have, like, never read an actual Marvel comic book. Unless you count the Star Wars ones.
I guess it's also worth noting that I hadn't watched a single Marvel movie until like 2 years ago.
Really?
I hadn't watched any of them. No, that's not true. I watched Guardians of the Galaxy when it came out, and that was my first Marvel movie that I saw.
Dang, Slime.
So I watched that, and then that Christmas, I visited my uncle's house, and he's like, "Oh, have you seen any of the Marvel movies?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "We need to just watch them all." So for the entire time that I was there, we just watched, like, I watched Iron Man, then watched The Incredible Hulk, and then Iron Man 2, and
that's so awesome, though. That's
watched
really
them, like, all at once.
Wow. Now, do you guys think that people would have needed to watch the other Marvel movies going into Civil War.
I think they needed to watch a few of them. I think I would say this is the movie that you need to have the most background on to understand, because of the implications of the destructive stuff when it comes to the Avengers, Age of Ultron, Captain America 2. Well, first of all, I mean, I think you need to have watched the Captain America films just because it's a sequel to those. I think the Iron Man movies are also a really good background to have on this movie. And I think the Avengers. Other than that, I don't think there's anything that important, really.
Yeah.
How about Ant-Man?
I would say Ant-Man, but like at the same time, it just seems kind of like someone they picked up. You know, like I don't think they need to know any background on him, really.
Right. Like I have, like I said, I haven't seen Ant-Man. I just watched the movie today. Actually, was when I watched it, and I was able to understand his part perfectly fine. So long as you know that he's a guy who can turn small and that he's an ex-criminal or something like that. That's pretty much all you need to know on him to like understand, because it's not like he's a huge main character or anything.
No, definitely not. So I guess where should we start with this? I guess on the topic of Ant-Man, do you guys feel, because this was my initial worry going into the movie, that there was going to be a lot of shoehorning in the film? I thought,
God. I thought there was going to be that too.
Yeah, I personally don't think there was a lot of that. I don't know what it was.
Define shoehorning exactly.
Okay, define shoehorning. Batman versus Superman. That is a definition. The way Wonder Woman was kind of shoved in there is an example. Whereas, like, while some superheroes in this movie didn't have a lot of screen time, I felt it was just because that wasn't really important to the plot.
Like, you knew who they were, and you were like, oh, it's cool that this person is in this movie, even though they only have a few lines. Like, say, Hawkeye. Hawkeye's one of those characters that it's
that's a great example of that. Yeah.
He feels like he fits, right?
Yeah.
Especially with his relationship with Wanda. Like, these characters rely so much on their previous relationships established in previous movies, but it fits so well.
A lot of people are praising this, and it's a great movie, and but I do have some issues with it. And one of those issues I felt was Spider-Man. Spider-Man, I felt, was, and this is probably a controversial opinion, but I didn't feel that Spider-Man should have been in the movie just because he contributed basically nothing to the plot, and being a character introduced in the movie, that seems very odd.
Really?
I agree. It felt like he was a bit shoehorned in there, but I still appreciated him in there regardless.
To be honest, I think he was shoehorned in there, because that completely contradicts what I said like 4 seconds ago about no shoehorning. But like, I think in all senses of the term, I think that he was brought into the movie late into development, if I remember correctly, if I was reading the articles correctly, because
Yeah, he was.
He was, yeah, because Sony worked on a deal and they kind of were like, okay, we can put Spider-Man in this. And I mean, I guess to Marvel that was a huge opportunity, which it definitely is. So I could see why they did it. I personally enjoyed his time on screen, but I do agree it was not the best introduction to the character.
Yeah. I'm not saying I dislike the character itself or anything like that. Like, he was great, and his time on screen was great, especially when there's the fight between, like him and Falcon and all that.
Oh, yes.
And then he's just fighting them, and then, the whole talking back and forth it's really...
Yeah, he was
really great.
I'm so excited for the Spider-Man movie after seeing Tom Holland play Peter Parker. God, I'm so hyped for that. This might be unpopular, but I think obviously he's better than Andrew Garfield, but I think he's also better than Tobey Maguire. That's at least my opinion on the matter.
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I kind of agree. I think he overall performed Peter Parker and Spider-Man better, while both Andrew and Tobey Maguire did either Spider-Man right or Peter Parker right. Tom Holland did both right, which actually made me pretty amazed.
Yeah, and like, it seemed like he kind of slipped into the Avengers role pretty well. Like, I was worried he'd either steal the spotlight or he would be kind of in the back. But like, he had great banter with Steve. He had fantastic banter with Tony Stark. A few other characters. It was just like, it's gonna fit. I can tell.
What other characters did you think were like really well done or well developed in this movie?
Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Oh
absolutely.
yes, Black Panther.
Easily my best my favorite character of the film.
You know, I was really thinking, I was when I first heard the Black Panther movie was going to be coming out, I was like, I really wish they would have saved his origin story for that. But to be honest, I'm kind of glad they did it in this movie because it actually fit very, very well with the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like the whole reason he becomes the character is because of the actions of the film, with his father being killed.
Yeah, and that was great.
Of the primary antagonist.
There's a few things that I felt like were a bit plot holy when it came to Black Panther, namely being how he randomly just had a jet, like where that came from when he was following Tony. That was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And the other one being how like he ran where he got the Black Panther suit. It was like 10 minutes after the bombing. He just had it. Like I don't know where he got that.
I watched this movie with several of my friends, and my sister, who was there with me, pointed out, like, why can Black Panther keep up with, Steve and Bucky if he doesn't really have any sort of augmentations?
That's true. I think it's that ring. I think we're going to find out more about that ring that he's wearing.
Well,
maybe.
I think only that, but the fact that Black Panther also has a lot of training, too.
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
But, like, he almost seems superhuman. He kind of, like, he walks that edge between being, like, a regular human, like, say, Black Widow, who was actually really brutal, I must say, in the opening sequence. Like,
oh, yeah.
In terms of her moves, just all the stuff she was pulling on the goons.
What the heck?
That was crazy. But I don't know about Black Panther. Like, I guess we are going to get more backstory, but in this one, it's kind of like, you can put some of it down to the suit. You can say, like, oh, yeah, it's the suit that made him like that, but I don't know.
I loved every second he was on screen. He seems like he's gonna fit well as kind of like the no nonsense Avenger.
Yes,
I loved when Hawkeye was trying to banter with him. He's like, "I'm Clint." He's like, "I don't care."
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. I was the only person who laughed at that, but
that was great. I love
felt
that.
kind of awkward laughing at that since nobody else did.
I also think that Black Panther is like, at least to me, it seems like he's the only character that like really gets any. I don't know if development is the right term, but like. At the end of the film, he realizes that what he's doing is wrong and that he shouldn't be seeking vengeance. The same can't be said about Iron Man and Captain America, though.
No, yeah, you're exactly right, yeah.
Which seemed to be weird to me, and that's one of my other main issues with the movie, was that you get to the end of it, and, okay, it's a fight between Iron Man and Captain America, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose, and, obviously the winner comes out being Captain America, but then he just leaves, and that's...
I guess on the topic, I've been talking to people at school and stuff, and I'll withhold what the general consensus for people I've talked to has been. Do you guys feel it was a very like one-sided argument, or do you feel that they represented both sides well as far as like the logic behind each side?
The logic, yes. The actual characters themselves and like who you, I don't know. It's just because I tended to sympathize with a lot more of the characters on Captain America's side, more just because I like them more as characters.
Yeah.
But in terms of like explaining it, and maybe this is where the backstory with Tony kind of becomes more necessary, but Tony's side makes sense.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Like, for the people I've talked to, they've said that like when it comes down to it, what Tony was saying made a lot of sense. He was saying he was compromising. He was saying stuff like, okay, we can keep Bucky in like a psychiatric ward while we figure out this legal stuff and then come back to him and talk about it. And like the main complaints I've heard from friends is that like Steve went kind of crazy, and that's what people are saying.
I would tend to disagree because I think that like Steve's side, it's less of a very firm position. It's definitely more like emotional, and it's more dependent on protecting Bucky. Which I think some of us have mentioned it in the spoiler chat on the boards. Like, the conflict between Bucky and Black Panther is probably what carries a lot of this movie.
Right, exactly.
But in terms of Bucky's position, like, I just have a personal link for myself with what I've been studying in school this year. Like, the idea of the Avengers being liable to a government, United Nations, like, council is gonna be probably problematic in terms of what they can and cannot do. They would completely have their hands tied.
I think that Tony was working on getting a baseline though, and he would try to work some legal hoops. Like I think that's what his plan was, at least. Because you're right. I mean, like if a giant alien attacked the planet, they have to be like, oh well, let's get the UN to sign off on this, and we'll go fight. Like that's crazy. But I don't think either side made a lot of sense in that term. I did like how the movie ended, and it wasn't just like, okay, the Sokovia Accords, that's solved. Like, that is still out there as an issue for future movies, which is kind of interesting.
But they also, I feel like they wrapped it up a bit, but I feel like they did a brave move in terms of splitting up the Avengers.
No, they did. That was very interesting.
Secret Avengers, am I right?
I mean, you gotta admit, Tony only has, 2.5 Avengers right now, so doesn't have a lot.
Yeah, well, actually you're right.
Make that new comedy show 2.5 Avengers.
Rip.
But you mentioned earlier about, like, Slime, you mentioned character development. I feel like one character who got a lot of development in this movie, just proportionally to her screen time, was Wanda. Like,
yeah.
Scarlet Witch, her actions in terms of Crossbones, like the getting rid of Crossbones / blowing that building up, really pushed it to like a whole other level, I feel.
On the topic of Wanda, how did you guys feel about the Vision-Wanda relationship?
It was subtle that they were kind of, and then there was the paprika thing, but...
I don't know. It just... Like, in my head, I was like, okay, they could totally make this work, and I'd be fine with it. Like, they could, like, play up a storyline, like, oh, I don't care if you're not human, but, like, it just seems super awkward to me, like, the whole thing did.
It's interesting that you interpret that in a romantic way. I'm not sure if it was meant to be in a romantic way or not, but
really?
The way I interpreted it as being was just them being close friends.
No, I think it's going to turn into something romantic. I think that's what their goal is.
That's what happened in the comics.
Precisely,
yeah,
that's like
weird,
and
but it happened in the
going
comics.
into it. That's what people were speculating. So I was like, oh yeah, I guess they're going with the comics romance route thing. But it's subtle. I could definitely see your point, Slime. It's not quite as overt as, like, say, Cap and Sharon.
Or this is in the same movie, but Hulk and Black Widow, when they kind of forced that on Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
That felt really
was more
forced.
Yes. But yeah, what the at sorry language, but at the whole Cap Sharon thing, that was so weird.
You think?
Yes.
I think it was
Yeah,
weird.
it was a little weird. It's like, oh, I really liked your mother. Is it even no?
No, it was her aunt.
Her aunt, yeah.
It's like, I liked your aunt like 150 years ago.
No, well, not 150.
50.
50, yeah.
50 to 100.
Like 90 or something.
It's just so I find that really weird.
75.
And then even Cap said something when they started making out. He's like, "Oh, I've been waiting to do that." And I'm thinking to myself, like, "Wait, how long have you been waiting? Didn't your like girlfriend just die like a week ago? Like, what the heck?"
To be fair, they did set it up. They did have a couple scenes earlier in the movie where you could kind of see the tension between them, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I guess this is where it's going." It's a little bit weird with what just happened with Peggy, but
she's like, "Hey, sorry about the death of your loved one, my aunt. Do you want to come to my room?" It's like, what the heck? Come on.
Can I ask you guys about one thing that I feel was very, very omnipresent in this film?
Mm-hmm.
The idea of consequences, both like in terms of on the characters, in terms of like the emotional weight of their actions, but also physically, like pretty much all of the folks that ended up in that prison, like especially Falcon, they were really beat up to a point that we haven't really seen in other Marvel movies. Like superheroes actually bled,
Tony was pretty beat up as well.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I remember one of the trailers. It looked like he had a cast on his arm. I wonder what that was about.
No, he did. He did have a cast on his arm.
But then he just got rid of it when he decided to put on the Iron Man suit again. That didn't really make sense.
Yeah, I don't know how that worked.
He just kind of decided no.
I just feel like this movie dealt a lot with the idea of consequences.
It did. I mean, yeah, they split the Avengers in the end, which was kind of crazy. There's a lot of... I mean, I know that Marvel isn't the biggest fan of killing off characters, but there's definitely the consequence of Rhodey losing his legs, which definitely holds some weight.
Yeah.
I'm fully expecting him to become Darth Maul now.
I know. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. They're just going to bring him back in some cool new Tony Stark robot legs. It's gonna be...
Do you think Rhodey should have died? Do you think an Avenger should have died in this movie?
100% yes.
Someone should have died.
Who?
Bucky or War Machine should have died. One of them should have.
Oh.
I don't know. I was like, because there was all the rumors of Captain America potentially dying.
I was expecting Cap to die when I saw the movie, so I was like near the end. I was like, okay,
I think the final fight would have been a lot more better executed if Tony loses his mind over his parents, starts beating the crap out of Bucky, and then actually kills Bucky, and then Captain America goes berserk and starts beating up Tony. I think that would have been
interesting. Yeah.
That would have been
how
a lot
would
better.
Stark cover up that death though?
in my own opinion, what would be interesting was if you have the fight between Cap and Bucky and Iron Man, and, you know, Captain America tries to step in, save Bucky, and Iron Man accidentally kills him, and I feel like that, much like the comics would, that would give, like, a good, like, finale to the ending. It's like, because the way it ended, it was, things weren't really resolved at all.
Yeah.
Which makes you kind of think that the whole movie was like, what was the whole point?
It's gonna be interesting to see what they build up. Like, I'd like to see for a while this split the Avengers. You know, I'd like to see, you know, when it comes to Doctor Strange and various other heroes they're introducing, see which side they take. You know, I'd like to see Hulk and Thor's opinions on the whole thing. I think that'd be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Speaking of death, can we just like go straight back to the beginning and talk about the opening sequence with Crossbones?
Yeah.
Rip and rip. And of course,
What a waste.
Of course, that's the guy that I like.
I know. Slime,
that I got to portray. It's like he got all of like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, at least he was good in those 10 minutes.
I know.
Yeah, he was.
Those punching gauntlet things, so good, so good. That's like my
cool.
favorite weapon of all time now.
And just the entire sequence.
Did we know Crossbones was going to be the guy from Captain America 2?
Yes.
We did.
Yeah, I already knew that.
Okay.
But the thing with Crossbones is that, like, because he kills Cap in the comics, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And so, were you guys kind of put off or surprised by the fact that he dies in like the first 15 minutes?
I wasn't at first, but the more I thought, like, I was after the movie, I thought about it. I was like, yeah, that was kind of weird. So, I mean, I don't know. I think in the movie it didn't really register to me as much. I was like, oh wait, that guy like died.
Indy, I'm probably gonna like step on your toes here, but one thing that I really liked about that opening sequence, and I think it's another theme that goes throughout this movie, is that they managed to yet again show like new abilities, new tools, just new stuff for each of the Avenger characters, right? Especially Falcon. I personally loved Falcon and what they did with him in this movie.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All right.
Falcon, or
I'm waiting. Hang on. I hate Falcon, by the way, just real quick. But I gotta go. So should we just wrap it up, possibly?
okay.
People
I'll take this up at another time.
Some pretty good.
Okay. So yeah, this has been the TTD podcast episode 7. So yeah.
Bye.